A huge thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. How's it? Look, it's a camera. It's a camera on TPE. There we go. But we're not talking about gear reviews today or anything like that. We're going to drink some coffee, and I'm going to talk about the time that I had the wrong lens and how it actually led to some of the coolest photographs I've ever taken that I really like. And it all started with a friend of mine saying, would you mind photographing my wedding? So this is going on about 15, maybe 17 years ago, something like that. So it's a while. We trooped off down to London, and we got down there, and I found, to my horror, right, that the venue itself was completely artificially lit. What they'd done is they blanked out the whole inside of this venue to make it look like a casino. So there's this gold stuff on the walls, the roof's very dark, what have you. And there's the first problem. Everything's very dark in there. So I'm looking at my zoom lenses, which is at the time what my gear primarily consisted of. And I was like, these are not fast enough. I can't get pictures in here without using flash, which, as a complete side thing, I didn't want to use flash because it would sort of destroy the atmosphere of the place just by popping over flash. And I know you can balance this up, but for the sake of this argument, I didn't want to use flash. So look in my bag. It's the only thing that I've got that's going to allow me to have decent shutter speeds so people aren't just a blurry mess is my 50 1.8 plastic fantastic Canon lens. I was thinking, God, okay, how am I going to make best use of this? So look around, think, what have I got? Okay, so firstly, what benefits do I have of where I am? And the first one was, okay, because of the nature of this building, because there isn't any daylight, because we're only in one room, because the lighting is this kind of weird stage lighting, everything is going to be even, and the light is actually even throughout the room. So awesome, I can just take one exposure and I know that's my base exposure, so it doesn't have to change. I don't have to start worrying about it and fiddling and mussing and stuff like that and spending time. I can focus on the pictures. So there's a benefit, he says, with a little burp sort of thing. The next thing is, all right, I've got the 50mm, and that means now that I can't actually stand outside of groups of people and photograph, and I have to get a little bit closer. I have to be a little bit more part of the event, which I didn't usually like doing at that stage because I felt very self-conscious about taking photographs. Fortunately, I know the people here, well, the majority of them, so it's fine. I'll have to get in there. And that was a real benefit for me because all of a sudden I was kind of forced through circumstances to be a little bit more in the mix, to embrace that kind of that Robert Capa-ish idea when he said, you know, if your photographs aren't good enough, then you're not close enough. In both senses of the word, you know, I was physically close, but also, you know, emotionally close. And that led to another thing as well. This is a small venue, so the tables are all stacked up on top of each other, what have you. Because of that, I don't want to be one of these photographers at a wedding, and I'm sure everybody's seen one at some point. The sort of person who stands up when the people are doing speeches and stuff, and they're standing in the middle or something, and just getting in everybody's way. So I was forced to squat down, get low down, to change my perspective, because I don't want to be. People don't want to see the back of my head. So squatting down, this is where my knees would still allow me to squat down for some time and still get up again. And some of those photographs are absolutely, I think, stunning because I'm in there in the mix. I'm photographing. Had I had a wide angle lens, I think then I would have been thinking too much about the lens choices. What am I going to use here? What am I going to use there? Because that only came later on. That natural way of using gear, of using, you know, your mind to sort of think what lens is appropriate here, hadn't really cemented itself in my mind at that point. So taking all that stuff out of the equation really made it a lot easier for me to focus on what it is that I wanted to do. Now, this idea of focus is something that Skillshare also bring to the table. When you decide to go and learn one of their classes, to get a skill and engage with, a teacher who's going to help you along the way discovering something, they have these paths of learning. So they give you this focus that's going through. So for example, my son's going to get a drum kit for Christmas. He's probably got it by now when you watch this. So, so it sort of is. Having a focus to go through gives him a path of learning. In addition to the fantastic photography classes that you'll find on Skillshare, you will also find classes on animation, creative writing, fine art, graphic design, illustration, business analytics, marketing, lifestyle, productivity. The list goes on and on. So if you want to get a free trial of Skillshare, there's a link in the description box below, and start off 2025 by learning a new skill. Another aspect of this kind of period, sort of 15 odd years ago, apart from the noise reduction issues, because these days it'd be like, AI noise reducer, all that kind of stuff. And the cameras also didn't do very well at high ISO, was the idea of white balance. Now, as you look at these photographs, they all have a fairly warm-ish tinge to them. And that is because what's the room doing? What's in this room? What's on the wall? It's this silver's gold foil stuff to make this place look like a casino. That's why there's this warm tinge. It's actually worked out quite nicely. And again, if I'd used flash, it would have, I think, overridden all of that warmth, that feeling. And that light actually works quite nicely, but it does bring into to question this idea about what is a proper white balance. The other day, I watched a video where they talked about, in cinematography, white balance. And why it doesn't have to be perfect, for example. So looking at this is like a fairly neutral white balance. But it doesn't have to be like this. Who says this has to be like this? It could be a different thing. Obviously, it's going to affect the way you feel about the images and stuff like that. But if I'd gone into those wedding pictures and decided that everything needs to be perfect. The skin tones need to be like my skin tone right now, this is apparently a daylight lamp. It's not shot in the daylight. It's not in outside. It's in a silvery gold casino room lit with, oh God, I don't know what kind of lights and stuff. And it's the same as when we go outside. There's some pictures I took outside. They feel slightly greeny and what have you, because hey ho, they're photographed under outside conditions, lights at night. There's neon, there's advertising, there's all this kind of stuff, and it all contributes to that excitement, the way that you feel about the pictures. God, man, it's like white balance. So many people get het up about it, right? It's like, it doesn't mean just like chuck it out and not care about white balance, but think about, does this really matter? Right, nobody, at least to my knowledge, has ever looked at a photograph and gone, that is like the best picture in the world ever because you've really nailed the white balance. No. They sit there and they go, I love that photo because it looks damn cool. There we go. Anyway, that's your thought for 2024. We're finishing off on a high. Hopefully. Right, anyway, thank you ever so much for watching. If you want to find out more about sort of wedding photography and how tricky it can be, what have you, then check this video. Thanks ever so much. I'll see you again soon. All right, and cheerio.